Hello folks, Alex here. This is Alex Unabridged, and this is my big old science fiction project for 2024. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, and thank you for joining me for this intro to the second of my my reading projects for 2024. And I think this is the one I'm the most excited about. So science fiction. A little bit of background before I get into the schedule for this project. Up until sort of this year, maybe the back end of 2022, I'd really not read much science fiction at all. A few morsels kind of over the years, but I'd really not delved into it at all. I'd kind of happened to read some science fiction just because I'd seen a book that I liked the premise of. I hadn't gone seeking out science fiction at all. And this is because of kind of being quite daunted by the genre in general, both in terms of just the amount of stuff that's out there, and all the different subgenres, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm not really knowing where to start with it. But also because I've been a little worried that I wouldn't get it, that, you know, the sciencey side of things would somewhat go over my head. But as I say, over the last year, I've found a few science fiction books that I've actually really loved, and that, you know, I've got on all right with the science side of things. And when I read a ton of science fiction in September this year, it really got its hooks in. And I kind of quite quickly went, yeah, I need to read some more of this. I need to learn some more about this genre, really. But most of what I've read thus far in terms of science fiction has been recent stuff, has been reasonably recent releases in terms of, you know, within the last sort of 15 years, I guess. And I know I want to read some more of that, but I definitely now want to read some more sci-fi from across the years, you know, going back into, you know, the kind of the classics and modern classics, the golden age, the new wave, all that kind of stuff. I want to see, you know, how science fiction's evolved over time, how it's changed, and obviously read some of the greats, some of the biggies, and see how those have influenced the stuff that I've, you know, I've been reading or I've read from recent years. But again, I had no clue where to start with all of this in terms of delving back into some of the classic sci-fi. And I'm still quite daunted. I'm still a little hesitant with it in terms of what will I like, what will I understand? So I went to the man that I consider to be a little bit of a personal oracle when it comes to books in general, my good buddy, Mr. Troy Tradup, and I asked him to help me out. Links to Troy's channel, by the way, are in the description. Go check out his videos and subscribe for lots of really interesting book chat. He reads loads of different stuff, not just sci-fi, so there's something for everyone there. But he is, as I say, a big sci-fi fan. And so I knew he'd come up with some ideas for me, and boy did he. I got an email from Troy titled Science Fiction for the Somewhat Hesitant, detailing, you know, loads of books to read, all set out in categories for me, covering some of what Troy considers to be kind of must-reads for the genre. It's a non-exhaustive list, of course, by his own admission, but it certainly covers some of the biggies. And as I went through this email and started thinking about it, I realised that there was actually a lot of stuff on my own wish list of things to read that would tie in quite well with Troy's suggestions. So in addition to Troy's titles on the list, I've added in my own selections as well to kind of complement and contrast with Mr. Tradup's. This plan has morphed, this project has morphed into something quite large now. And it'll stretch 2 years at present. But today I'm only going to give you a rundown of 2024's plan. and I'll give you a little taste of what might come into 2025. But this is more just kind of an overview for the next year's schedule of reading. So this whole project, which of course I am naming after that email that sparked this whole thing off, science fiction for the somewhat hesitant, was, as I say, entirely inspired by that message from Troy. So a huge thanks to Troy for that. I'm really looking forward to this project. So the plan then for 2024, I'll be reading 2 books a month. So generally one of those will be one from Troy's list and another one will be one of my own selections. The books they're kind of grouped into sort of 3 main blocks as we go through the year, with what I'm kind of calling an interlude between the main blocks. I won't go into details about the plots, etc. of the individual books today because we'll be here forever. I will save that for each month's TBR. This is more of an overview of the whole plan. So it's a chance for you to see if there's anything on here that you might want to look out for in the coming months, or anything that you might want to read along with me, or buddy read if you want to do a buddy read. I'm always up for a buddy read. So then let's have a little look at the books that I will be reading throughout the year. Okay, in January then, we are starting off with 2 from a group of books called the YA Starter Pack. This is a group of books that I will be using firstly to ease myself in to this project with a prelude, and then there'll be some interludes because they will hopefully be slightly easier reads to give me a break after some of the blocks that I've got, which might be a little bit heftier. So first up then we've got Grasshopper Jungle by Andrew Smith. Which Troy informs me is the bonus of this is it's gay in a very lovely way. So I will very much look forward to that. It's always good to have a little bit of queerness in my fiction. And my pick will be The Girl Who Broke the Sea by A. Connors, which is one I just spotted this year as part of a Kindle Daily Deal, and really liked the look of. So we'll give that one a go as well, and those 2 will both add into my Read What You Own challenge as well, which is good. Okay, into the first proper block then, that'll take us through February, March and April. And this is the ABCs of science fiction, with a sometime problematic H and a very British W. Troy's list, when he sent it through for the ABCs, was all the ABCs of American science fiction, with him being an American, of course. And so when I came to do my picks, it makes complete sense for me to do the British. So this will be a transatlantic face-off of some classic science fiction. So in February then, on the American side of things, we've got the A of Isaac Asimov with Foundation, a classic, I believe. One that I go into with some trepidation. I'm not sure whether I'll get on with this or not, but we'll give it a go and we'll find out. And then on the British side of things, we've got The Sea of Arthur C. Clarke and Childhood's End, which I don't know any of Arthur C. Clarke's writing. I know his stuff from some of the films that have been made of his work. But Childhood's End, yeah, I don't know. I am informed that it had a reveal that blew people's minds a bit in 1953 when it came out. So that's piqued my interest. In March then, we're going for the B of Ray Bradbury for the American side of things, with The Martian Chronicles. I have read a little bit of Bradbury before and I have very much enjoyed what I've read. So I do have high hopes for that one. And then on the British side of things, we've got that very British W of John Wyndham and Day of the Triffids. Day of the Triffids has been on my kind of to-read list for years. And so this is the perfect opportunity to actually finally get round to it. And then in April, we're going for that sometime problematic H of Robert A. Heinlein and Stranger in a Strange Land. quite a controversial book by all accounts, I think politically perhaps, but I know nothing about it, so I'm very interested to find out what all that controversy is about. And then on the British side, we've got going for another B with J.G. Ballard and The Drowned World. I know absolutely nothing about Ballard, other than he wrote Crash, which I know the film of, the Cronenberg film of. So that is my only frame of reference for Ballard. But yeah, definitely a British sci-fi author that I think I ought to read. Okay, then May, we're into the second set of books from the YA starter pack for a little interlude. And this is with the Tripods trilogy by John Christopher. I will read all three. I have all three in a volume. Originally, Troy suggested just the first one, The White Mountains, but then I've got all three. It's not that long, might as well. And then my pick is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. So we'll give those a go. Hopefully something a little easier than some of the stuff that I've just read. Okay, into the next block then, one that I am particularly looking forward to, I have to say. And this is great books, great movies, and this will take us through June, July and August. I will, of course, be watching all of the movies once I've read the books for this. So in June, we're starting off with some more Arthur C. Clarke and 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've only ever seen this once when I was probably 20, something like that. So I'm very interested to watch it again now. I don't remember particularly liking it as a film at the time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to revisit that, and certainly in book form first. And then the next one in June is Solaris by Stanislav Lem. I've tried this before. In fact, I tried this back end of last year, beginning of this year, and I DNF'd. But I didn't DNF because I didn't like it. I really liked it, but this is one where I struggled with the sciencey stuff, with the weirdness. And it went back on the pile, basically, as like, no, I will try that again. I just can't do it right now. So I'm going to tackle it and get through it, and watch the films as well. There are a couple of films of that. Okay, July then, we've got Planet of the Apes by Pierre Boulle. This is one that I know the cultural reference kind of for, but I've never seen the film. Not the Charlton Heston film. And I have to say, it's not one that's ever really interested me particularly, but I know it's one that Troy really likes. And it was from his list, so we will give it a go. It's always good to try things that you think you won't like, because I'm often surprised. And then my pick for July is a short story by Philip K. Dick, and that is We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, which is what the film Total Recall was based on. The 90s version of Total Recall, the Arnie version, is one of my favourite films of all time. I love that film. So, I want to read the source material for that. And then it's a good excuse to watch the film again for like the 100th time. And then in August, we've got The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, which I think the film is The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Not one that I know anything about at all. And then the other pick is Who Goes There by John W. Campbell, which is what The Thing was based on. I only watched The Thing for the first time this year, the John Carpenter film, in April. It's part of Old School April, and I loved it. So again, it's another one where I've seen the movie, but I really want to read, the book that inspired it, or the story that inspired it. Okay, then we've got another little interlude from the YA starter pack, and this time it's with The Giver by Lois Lowry, and The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I've seen the film of The Maze Runner, which was okay, but I liked this. I liked the concept, I liked the setup, etc. And so I'd really like to read that, in its book form, because I think sometimes the world building, can be a little bit it can be better because you've got more space, you know, more time essentially to play with that. So we'll give those two a go for September. Okay, the final block then for 2024 that'll take us through October, November and December is one that I'm calling Different Worlds, Different Voices. Troy's suggestions on his email were grouped under a classification entitled Accessible Groundbreakers. So to complement that, I have gone with some more contemporary stuff that will fit in the queer sci-fi bracket. So October then, the accessible groundbreaker is Ursula K. Le Guin's The Left Hand of Darkness. I don't think you could have a list without some Le Guin on it, really. This is a name that I see on every must-read science fiction list ever, really. She's one, though, that I'm not entirely sure why, but she's one of those that daunts me. But, you know, I'll trust Troy that this is an accessible groundbreaker. And this apparently has some hugely influential gender bending in it, so I would definitely look forward to that. On the queer sci-fi side of things, I've got This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone. This one intrigues me in terms of its format. I think, you know, this is kind of communications back and forth between two characters, between time and space, I think. But it sounds very interesting, so we'll give that one a crack. November then, we're going to Joanna Russ's We Who Are About To. I do have some other Russ in my my personal library to be read, which I haven't read yet. But this one apparently is quite grim and startling. So I'll prepare myself for that one. And then on the queer sci-fi side of things, we've got Gideon the Ninth, which is by Tamsin Muir. This one's an interesting one because this is kind of science fantasy, I think, which will be a completely new genre for me. And this is Lesbian Necromancers in Space. It sounds really interesting and really fun. Okay then, for December, to round the year out, we've got Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. Again, another name that, you know, really has to be on, I think, any must-read sci-fi list. And again, not an author that I've read. And then on the queer sci-fi side of things, I've got Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente, which sounds really fun and campy and kitsch and just, yeah, really, really good fun. So that is the first year, the first year's plan for science fiction for the somewhat hesitant. And let's hope I'm a little less hesitant by the end of that year. Looking forward into the future then, just very briefly into 2025, what's to come. I've got some more, more classic stuff, some post-apocalyptic and apocalyptic stuff, alternative history stuff, suggested by Mr. Troy, and some sci-fi horror, some scary space stuff. Then we've got some absolute classics with some Shelley and Verne and Wells and all that good stuff. Then we've got some modern classics, some big old modern classics. This is where we get into the heavy lifting. So I should be prepared for it by the time we get round to the back end of 2025. Now, of course, we've got Dan Simmons and Frank Herbert and Kim Stanley Robinson and Stevenson and Delaney, and that's what's in at the moment anyway. That's obviously subject to change because we are a long way away from 2025 at the moment. But that's what you can expect beyond this year. So that is the plan for the next year. If there is anything on there that you see that you fancy reading and you want a buddy read, as I say, do get in touch in the comments or via email. Or if you just fancy dipping in, dipping out, reading along with me as we, go through the year, when there's a book that you see, then please feel free to do so. If people do want to do that and, you want somewhere to chat about it, I'm more than happy to set up a Discord server if that's what people want. So again, just let me know if you want something like that sorting out. But that is it, I think, from me today. I will leave it there. and we will get into the first couple of sci-fi books very soon. I will be back on Tuesday with an introduction to my other project for 2024, and then the first TBR for 2024 will come on Friday. But thank you very much for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider giving me a like and subscribing for more content coming very soon. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.